Okay, this video is going to discuss comma usage and pronoun usage. I have not penalized you on your essay so far for comma usage uh, or pronoun usage, I believe. However, for the next essay, for the process analysis essay and the persuasive essay, I will be. So your point of reference for some background information on this, for commas, it's going to start on page 293 in the writer's reference. And then for pronouns, that's going to be on page 217 in the writer's reference. So let's look at a few issues in this sample student essay that has some of my comments on here. Let's look at pronouns. If you look at this sentence, it says right here, it says, one thing a certified nurse's aide should be aware of at all times is all the different types of noises that are bound to happen on the unit while they are on their 8 or 16-hour shift. So here's the problem. You have your pronouns they, are, on, their. Now, they and their are plural pronouns, but it's referring to aide, which is singular. That's not going to work because the pronouns have to agree to what they're referring to. A pronoun is basically like a replacement noun, and they have to agree in number. So aide, singular, they, their, plural isn't going to work. What you'd have to do is maybe, the easiest way would be to say one thing certified nurses' aides should be aware of, and then that would work with that. Let's look right here at this sentence, beginning with some. The very first rule that it discusses in the writer's reference is two independent clauses separated by a conjunction. So if you look at this sentence, some call me daughter, wife, and or granddaughter, but it's all the same to me and I feel obliged to be able to fill the void in their life. Okay, so your conjunction here is and. Alright, now an independent clause is basically a sentence. So when you have a situation like this, you have to look at what comes before the conjunction and what comes after it. So before it, you have some call me daughter, wife, and or granddaughter, but it's all the same to me. After it, you have I feel obliged to be able to fill the void in their life. So you have two independent clauses coming before and after it, so you need a comma right there. Let's see. Alright, let's look at this sentence right here. You have, if a visitor comes to the unit for the first time, there are a lot of things that may seem new to them that they may not have been aware of. Alright, so let's look at the pronouns. First of all, you have they, or them and they, but that refers to visitor. It's not going to work because you have plural going back to a singular. So you probably have to change it to if visitors come to the unit. That would fix that. The next thing you have is an introductory phrase, and that discusses that in the writer's reference as well. Typically, an introductory phrase is going to begin with words like if, when, before, because, and so on. So when you have an introductory phrase, you put a comma after the phrase. Typically, most students use sentences that begin with if, when, because. If you see a sentence begin with that, you need to put a comma in that place. Let's look at this sentence right here. It says, because there are no call lights, we must check each and every resident at all times and must be aware of what they were doing and how they are doing so nobody ends up hurt or needing something without an aide knowing. Alright, so first of all, let's look at what this person did right. Because there are no call lights, that's an introductory phrase beginning with because, and there's a comma after it, you see. However, you have a comma before the conjunction. Here's the problem. If you look at the conjunction, you have must be aware of what they are doing and how they're doing so nobody ends up hurt or needing something without aid knowing. That's not an independent clause. That can't stand by itself as a sentence. So you have a conjunction separating two clauses that aren't independent, so you don't need a comma there. So you need to be aware of that. I'd look at that pretty closely because that gives you well, really, that's one of the most common mistakes I see with commas, are the two independent clauses with the conjunction. So you need to kind of be aware of that, be looking for that, study those comma rules. If you have any questions, make sure that you ask me, but study up on this section of commas in the writer's reference. Also study up the section of pronouns in the writer's reference, because I will make that a part of your grammar grade for this next essay.